Hello friends, in today's video we are going to talk about how to work with MongoDB, especially using with Dockers. MongoDB is one of the major NoSQL databases. Before I actually show you how to run a MongoDB container within your local machine, we are assuming few things over here. I'm already assuming that you already have some basic knowledge with the Dockers and MongoDB. Docker desktop is already installed on your local computer or laptop, and I'm also assuming that you're already aware about certain concepts about Docker Hub and repository, and also I'm assuming that you know about MongoDB Compass GUI tool. So this Compass GUI tool can be used to connect onto a remote MongoDB running on a different server or a local server, or even for a container which you are going to run. In order to run MongoDB in a Dockerized environment, we'll be using two commands. The first command is a pull command, which actually pulls the Docker official image from the Docker Hub repository. And then in order to run that image as a container, we are going to use the Docker run command. The run command accepts few parameters where we are specifying ports that would be mapped from a local computer to the Docker container port, and we also specify a name of the container image. The name normally being avoided can lead to different issues. It's always a good practice to give a name of the container, because you can always run your containers, you can stop your containers and restart it even if you don't need those containers, and like save on those resources. So these are the two commands which we would run in order to use the MongoDB in a Dockerized environment. So in order to run the MongoDB in a Dockerized environment, the first thing we need to do, as specified in the presentation, that is to pull the Docker official image for MongoDB. And for that we are going to use a Docker command. So we'll just use docker pull and mongo. So this is the command that would officially pull the official image of the the MongoDB on the Docker Hub repository and within our local Docker environment. So let's press enter and see what happens. So this is going to use the latest tag, because every image, Docker image, whichever you create, you normally specify the tags, and the latest means the latest image that has been compiled for us and can be used for any kind of a development or testing purposes. So by default it would always pull up the latest image, unless and until we do want to specify some another image to be pulled around, we can specify with colon and then the version. But because we just want to play with that, so we just pull the latest image. So it will try to pull all the parts of that image and compile into a single one, and then we can run the Docker container for this MongoDB in order to really use it. So let's give this a couple of minutes more in order. So it's done. It all depends upon your internet speed, because it is actually pulling up the image from the Docker Hub repository. So once the image is pulled from the Docker Hub repository, now you can run that image with the help of the following command. So I'm just going to clear the screen and paste this command. So this is the command that would help us to run the Docker image for MongoDB as a container in our local PC. So this can be used for development or for trial or for any other purpose you find or you want to use MongoDB. So here -p is definitely very important, which runs the ports, and that specifies the port mapping between your local machine to your the actual Docker container image. So we are using the default ports, and we are also specifying a name parameter where we are trying to give the name of the container image. It's a good practice, because with the help of the name, which you can remember, you can easily start and stop those images, though it can be stopped with the help of the other things like container IDs or anything, but it's always easier to remember names, because the container IDs would be some specific junk characters that would be there. So we can stop or restart the containers based upon our resources or requirements, whatever we have. And let's press the enter and see whether it runs the Docker image or not. So when we press enter, yes, it generates some kind of a random token for us. Okay, this is the container which is now being started from that particular image. Now, in order to use MongoDB, there are primarily two environments. One is the MongoDB shell, which we can use, or we can also use the MongoDB Compass GUI environment. So we'll use the MongoDB Compass GUI environment to connect to this container image and then create some collections or databases in that. So now, as we saw that we are able to pull the Docker image for MongoDB and we are able to run it as a container. Now it's better to connect and see that thing in the action with the help of MongoDB Compass GUI environment. I've already have the installation for that, but you can download it by just searching it on Google about the MongoDB Compass GUI tool. So if you see, I have this MongoDB Compass GUI tool. It's an app that gets installed on your local PC. So once you run this, you can connect it this to a variety of servers. You can use multiple connections. So I'm going to use a new connection out here, and once the new connection is done, I'm going to pass on the actual MongoDB this connection string. Now typically the connection string is of MongoDB : / the localhost, because I'm running it on my localhost, and then the port number which you want to use. And if you remember, when we actually started the container image, so we specified both ports 27017. So we are just using that. Otherwise, the port number which you specified for your local should be given over here. So let's try connecting it. Okay, so connect, and yeah, it gets connected to our container environment, the container image for MongoDB. And these are the by default stuff that's available for us, but we can start playing with our create database. So let's say I want to create a database by the name of RD, and the collection name is, let's say, departments. Okay, so let's create the database. So it would create a database for us that's named as RD, and then within the RD, if you see, there is a collection named as departments that automatically created. But right now there is no data in the department, so we can add some data through ourselves, or we can even import the data through the help of a JSON file or anything. So let's just use some add data, and I'll say insert document. Okay, so it gives you some kind of a template to enter it, but let me just remove that, and I can just use it over here to create a new, let's say, a document in this. So we'll create a new one, which is, we have a department number that's, let's say, 10. We have a department name, which is, for example, let's say technology, and we have, let's say, the location. This is the key, and because it is always in the form of a JSON, so you should remember all those syntax as well as the JavaScript object notation template we need to use. So the location is, let's say, we want to just give it to as Vancouver, and we just use an insert. Yes, so there is one data that has been inserted. You can continue editing this, or you can add more data to that. So that's how it's a very basic stuff video that we have that I've created for you guys, just in order to give you a kickstart for running a MongoDB container image on the Docker and start using it. So you don't have to install a MongoDB completely on your local machine, or you're accessing it on your server. Just run it into your Docker. We can use this as in the form of a microservices based development, run databases per service. That's one of the trends that's being followed and the best practices and pattern to be used. So I hope this video is a kind of a kickstarter for all of you. You'll be able to use MongoDB within the Docker environment with the help of that, and then access the same MongoDB container image with the help of MongoDB Compass GUI tool. See you soon in the next video. Stay tuned, and wish everyone a very best of luck wherever you are. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon.